Well, I kind of thought I'd give you a little bit of an update on our neighbor. I'm kind of trespassing in my neighbor's yard here, but he don't care. Update on her swimming pool. She's hadn't added on here. She's had a door added right there. That wall, I'm not sure yet what it's for, but there's the pool. Before they could even get started on this pool, this is Sunday, so they're not going to do anything today, but they had to come in and they had to remove all the water lines that went through the yard for the yard irrigation, the sprinklers, and what else was it? Electrical. They had to remove all the electrical lines, but all of our lines are buried. You notice you don't see any telephone poles or anything. We don't have that here. Everything's buried, so the electric lines went under there somewhere, and I had to wait for the power company to come out and remove them and move them, and I don't even know what they've done with them. I think they dug a lot of the electric lines right in through there, I think. And we've had a lot of rain here lately, so as you can see, if you look on the other side of the yard, you see that little blue hose going out to the street. When they come in here to work, they got to turn on a sub pump. They got to pump the water out of this hole before they go in and do any work. And I imagine they probably can't do much of anything now till we start getting some dry weather, dry all that up before they put some concrete in. I think you can see me okay. Yeah, I'm looking in there. Somebody was asking a story about how I found out about the villages coming from Indiana, and I don't watch the news all that much, and I especially don't watch Fox News. Just my opinion, I don't like it. So I guess they advertised on there, but I never saw it. So here's my story about how I found the villages. I told my granddaughters when they were little that I would bring each one of them down to Disney World on their 5th birthday, thinking, that I could come down any time during their 5th year. They start first grade in Indiana when they're 6. So, and I didn't know how many granddaughters I was going to have. I ended up with 5. So the first one we brought down here was Allison. We call her Allie. We brought her down. I know she went to Universal Studios. To be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure. Let me turn this a little bit. I'm not 100% sure she went to Disney. She may have went to Disney. I don't really remember. And we brought her down, and I still have video of her when she was only 5. And then after that, Autumn turned 5 when we brought her down. And it was on the way home because that's when we had our little dog Maggie. On the way home in the car, Autumn had gotten sick. And so after we stopped and got everything, straightened away, we was coming north on 27 and 441, which goes right by Spanish Springs up north. And I didn't know anything about the villages. But Autumn was complaining about being hungry. I was dragging my feet leaving the state. I've always liked it down here, so when it's time to go home, I didn't hurry about it. I went kind of slow. So we got there around the Spanish Springs, but I didn't know that at the time. And she kept saying, "Papa, I want something to eat. Papa, you gotta stop. You gotta stop." I said, "Okay." I said, "We'll find someplace up here." And I just happened to be at that area up there, and I happened to look left, and I saw the street that went down, and I saw a bunch of buildings, and I said, "Well, let's go down this road here, we'll find something to eat." And we pulled into Spanish Springs. I did not know what Spanish Springs was, and at that time there was an Augustine's restaurant up on the corner, and we pulled in there and we parked. And I said, "Well, let's get a bite to eat here. We can sit outside." knowing we was heading north, see, where it's going to get colder. I said, we can sit outside and we'll have a little nice something to eat right out here. Is that okay? She said, yeah, that's okay. So we went in there and we got a nice table outside, and we ate our, I think it was lunch about that time, and everybody was happy. And I seen all these golf carts running around. Some of them were parked in front of Augustine's, and some of them just kind of passing through. And the waitress that came by, and I asked her about it. I said, what's with all these golf carts? Which is probably not an unusual question for, new people to come in. And she said, oh, this is a retirement community. I said, this is? And she said, yeah. I said, you mean this town right here where I'm sitting right now is a retirement community? She said, well, they live on the other side of the road over there. And she said, and there's some houses they're building around this town square here. She said, yeah, basically all this is a retirement community. She said, other people come in here. She said, but the retired people that live here, she said, they drive their golf carts everywhere. That really sparked my interest right there. The fact that I'm looking around, and if I'm looking at the hospital, I'm looking at all this stuff here, and the fact that I could take my golf cart and go anywhere I wanted to and not have to drive my car. And I didn't even think about golfing at that time. That was the first sparked interest that I had. So the very next year, my wife and I, we came back down here because at that time I worked for Saturn Corporation, and I delivered auto parts. We were a third-party logistics company with Ryder Integrated Logistics, and I enjoyed the job a lot. We were UAW members. We got a lot of time off, and my supervisor in Spring Hill, Tennessee, is where Saturn Corporation is at. I lived in Hartford City, about 50 miles, give or take, south of Fort Wayne. He called me up, and he says, you've got 2 weeks vacation coming. You've got to use them by the end of the year if you intend to use them, or otherwise, he said, on a specific date, he said, they're going to cut you a check for 2 weeks and send it to you, and you're going to lose your time off. I said, really? He said, yep, it's use them or lose them. I said, can I carry them over to the next year? And he said, no, you have to use them. I said, okay. I said, well, I don't even know what weeks it was. I just told him to put me down for 2 weeks. And my wife said, well, what are we going to do for them 2 weeks? So I said, I have no idea. I never even thought about it. And it was that time of year, you can go back and probably Google it, and I don't remember what year it is, that Disney World at that time had a big advertisement push about Disney World, and the big push was Disney World, it's just not for kids anymore. And it had elderly people talking about Disney World and the things to see and do. But we went down for a couple of weeks, and on the way down we rented a hotel. At that time it was the Hacienda Hacienda Hotel, Hacienda Village Hotel, something like that. And we stayed there for a couple of days, and we walked down to the square, which wasn't that far, but on the way to the square you had to go through a little park area, and there was some old duffers out there with their electronic sailboats, and they were sailing around, and I was talking to them, and they were kind of telling me about the place, and we go to the square, and we get our, a couple of drinks, and we're watching them dance and listen to the band, and we're walking around the square, and at that time there was a church on the square. They didn't have the Sharon Theater. That was the church on the square. And we went to a movie, and there's things. And I told Sue, I said, and she said the same thing, of all the different retirement communities we looked at, this one was really unique. And so every year we'd come down with the grandkids, taking them to Disney when they turned 5. Whatever year that was, when they turned 5, we brought them down to Disney World. I usually took about a week. And we spend about 5 days at the park, but not every day. I couldn't take it. One day at a park. Next day we just kind of goofed around. So hung around the swimming pool at the hotel, maybe went shopping a little bit. Then the next day after that, maybe go back to Disney World. We kind of rest up in between. Well, on the way home or on the way down, mostly on the way down, we would stop and rent a hotel room there for a day and bring the granddaughter down to the square and listen to music and dance and stuff like that, get a bite to eat, and then got up the next morning and went on down to Orlando area. So, that's what we did it every year. And as time went on and all the grandkids were done with, we started spending more and more time here. We started renting houses here and getting more and more immersed into the lifestyle here. And then I don't know when we actually decided, but we knew 20 years ago that this was probably going to be it. And it is. So that's my story about how we found the Villages, totally by accident, totally by luck. I just happened to make a left turn looking for a place to eat. And I talked to a waitress that gave me some information. So with that, maybe I'll get a few more stories from a few neighbors around here that can tell you their story. Well, with that being said, I'm gonna get off Bob's front porch. From a gorgeous day in the Villages. Look at that. Look at that out there. From a gorgeous day in the Villages, 80-some degrees, a little bit of rain. Who cares? Everything looks great. I guess I'll see you on the other side.